Cheers, my brother.
Cheers, my friend.
All right. All right, everyone. Here we are. Another awesome episode of the All Around Adventure podcast. And today I am joined by my friend, Collin Cottrell today. Welcome back to the show, brother.
Good to be back, buddy. Glad to be here.
So tell me, how you feeling right now?
Overall, honestly, man, I feel pretty good overall. I mean, for running 100 miles, over the weekend, that's feeling all right is a good thing, I guess.
Well, I was really surprised when I was following you along the race, and I could tell that you prepared really well for this because, you'll be at 20 miles and then 50 and then 70, but your face expressions were not changing throughout the day. I'd feel like you'd be gradually getting more and more exhausted, even crossing the finish line. You're still, with it, man. So
yeah, man, it was. And that actually why I'm probably feeling better than a lot of people do after an event like this is like we were talking about earlier before we started recording. Is I train really hard. I do. I take it really serious. I train hard. I don't have any off days. You know what I mean? I put in the work that you need to put in for something like this. I do a lot of my mobility work. I stretch at least 30 minutes a day, if not more. I do sauna sessions. I do some cold plunge stuff. You know what I mean? I do this stuff every day. I treat this like it's my Super Bowl. I really did. I treated it like it was my Super Bowl. I wanted to be a professional, even though I'm not a professional runner and I've never been a runner. I was like, just in my mindset with this, I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to give it my all and I'm going to go 100%. So I think that's why I recovered. I'm recovering pretty quickly. And I feel like, during the event, during the run, I actually, and I don't know if you know this yet or not, but I actually got the flu the day before. So
yeah, I did catch your story about that, getting that bug. Yeah.
So I ended up getting the flu in the most crucial time because leading up to the run, like you literally have to be getting your nutrition dialed in at that point, within a couple days of the race. You got to be getting your water in, that's prime time. That's when you got to be making sure you're making your final moves, and I wasn't eating or drinking anything because everything I was going to put in my body was going to come right back out anyway. So I had a stomach ache. I was sick. I was up all night. So for me, it was like I started that race feeling like crap and I got better as it went on, which is, I guess that's a good thing. That's you train for it to hopefully go better towards the end. You want to have your best stuff in the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? So it literally, that's how it ended up being, is in the fourth quarter, I ended up having my best stuff and was able to, complete this run in 27 hours. So
nice.
And I really feel like, looking back now too, if I would have been 100% in the first half of the race, I should have done this in under 24 hours for sure, which was my goal. So it is what it is, but we made it. We got it done, man. So,
well, take us back a little bit here. Exactly what put this idea in your head? Where did this come from? Because I don't think just like anyone just is sitting around one day just thinking that there's going to go do a 100-mile race at one point. But I'm sure it's going to stem off of just, you and I, we follow a lot of the same people. We follow a lot of inspirational, motivational people in like the fitness space and like the men's lifestyle space and so on and so forth. Sure. So did this idea come from, let's say, someone you follow, or just take us back? Where did this come from?
A little bit. Definitely there's some inspiration and some motivation there from people I follow, mentors, that I look at. But I would say that, really the idea came from just because over the last couple of years, as I've started to do more hard things in my life, that's where the most growth has happened for me. You know what I mean? That's where I've leveled up the most in my life, is by pursuing hard things and then going out and doing them. And whether I accomplish them or not, it's in that moment, during that journey of trying to accomplish those things, of putting it forth that effort, is where I'm actually having my most growth. So, losing 100 pounds and running 100 miles, like there's a lot of growth that happens from point A to point B in both of those arenas, both sides of that. So, and I do have to give credit where credit is due. I mean, there's guys like Cam Haynes that he's been a client of mine. He's been a friend of mine for over 15 years. This guy is the real deal. He's a great person to, I don't know if mimic is the right word, but somebody to emulate. You know what I mean? Right. And he's an ultra runner, but he's also a bow hunter. I'm a bow hunter. My passion is bow hunting. And then I see this guy running mountain races at the highest level, running, some days 20 mile days, on a regular weekday, I think that's pretty cool. He treats bow hunting like he's a professional athlete. He treats the hunt like he's trying to give his best effort, like that's his Super Bowl. So when I see a guy like him doing that, I think, man, like that's how we should treat hunting. That's how we should treat our pursuits, especially hunting, because, man, we're chasing after an animal. Why wouldn't we want to give our best effort, chasing that animal? So my ultimate goal is to be back in the mountains bow hunting elk, bow hunting mule deer, out in Colorado, out in Montana, out in Wyoming, out in Arizona, out in New Mexico, whatever, all these mountainous regions, I'd love to get back out west and do that. So, looking at Cam and seeing what he does at the highest level, this guy's, he's a straight killer. Like I want to emulate that. I want to be a straight killer too. So, and then I see that running is a big part of that. Lifting is part of that. That's the routine. I train jiu-jitsu as well, as
Right.
I'm trying to add all these different, disciplines into my life that are going to hopefully bring me up, level me up to this point where when I do go out on a bow hunt, I'm going to have the highest capability possible to get it done out there. That when a situation arises within my family life, a tough situation with my kids or my wife or my family or whatever, extended family, that in those tough moments, like that's not going to be tough for me, because you know what? I've done really hard stuff already in my life, like freaking grinding for 100 miles, in 27 hours. So yeah.
Yeah. So, well, speaking of that, I mean, getting ready for an event like this, it involves a huge time commitment, because if you're trying to build up that endurance, these long runs are taking hours upon hours. It's not like you can tax yourself pretty quickly lifting weights in the gym. You're kind of, I wouldn't say necessarily in and out, but maybe within about an hour time frame, where I even saw like some of your progress as you were training. You were doing like full marathons on some of your training days. Yeah. And that's at least like 3 to 4 hours, give or take, somewhere around there. So just balancing life, doing your stuff with your business, just making sure you show up as a husband and a father, and of course making sure you're putting in the miles and staying consistent with your training. Just what did that look like for you? How did you kind of manage all those different roles and responsibilities to show up effectively in all those areas?
Yeah. It was not easy. Let's just put it that way. First of all, there is a huge time commitment that, and I knew that going in. And here's the thing too, like going into this, I was thinking, man, well, this is right in the middle of hunting season. I have a few trips planned out, but it is what it is. Like if I'm going to do this, if I want to pursue this, like I'm just going to have to give up something here, excuse me. So yeah, there was a huge time commitment involved. I knew that going into it. And then I'm a father, of course. I'm a husband. I'm a business owner, which I recently just started a new business. So I've got high caliber hunts, and I'm also a coach now. I'm doing some coaching for men, helping them get back in shape, which I've been doing that for a while, but I started my own thing now. So, which is pretty cool. I haven't really talked a lot about it on social media and stuff.
Okay.
It's called High Caliber Nation. And so basically it's online fitness coaching and just development for men, helping them, get more performance in their life.
Sure. Yeah.
I guess some could call it life coaching in a sense as well, but I call it performance coaching or transformational coaching. But yeah, and
which sounds a lot cooler than just your generic life coaching. Yeah, a little bit more niche, I'd say.
It's beyond that for sure. We're diving into a lot of different areas, and all surrounding, your mental, emotional, physical, spiritual transformations. But yeah, so there's a huge commitment. You're trying to juggle all these different things, and then you're trying to obviously get ready for a 100-mile race. So, most of my weeks looked like, and you don't stop lifting, you know what I mean? You don't stop doing all the other training as well. You kind of take that back a little bit of a notch, but I did have to give up jiu-jitsu for the time being. I think I trained maybe twice in the whole, 5 months that I was training for the run. So that was one thing I had to kind of take away, because you couldn't juggle both. You're doing so much cardio that it's tough. But, so I was lifting 3 times a week still, getting a good lift in every, 3 days a week. Every single morning I'm doing, at least an hour of mobility / sauna, so that's every single day. And then your runs are, Mondays would be my off day, I guess you could say. I'm still trying to get like 10, 15,000 steps in a day. It might not be long runs or anything like that, but I'm trying to get good movement in. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're you're getting some runs in. You're getting probably on average, I would say 5 to 7 miles a day on those 3 days, each of those days. So by that time, you're 14, you're 20 miles in. And then you go Friday, another kind of just a rest day again. Like you're still getting mobility. I'm getting my lift in, I'm getting my movement in. But then Saturday, long run every week, and that was typically, and starting out, obviously you're going from a 2-hour long run, but gradually you're picking that up every Saturday as you go. It ended up turning into a 6-hour long run at the end, Mm-hmm. So that's where all of a sudden you're running marathons and you're running 30 miles on a Saturday. Now these aren't like full threshold runs or anything like that. These are slow pace runs. You're working on your heart rate. You're working on, testing and seeing where your heart rate's at, so you can get that heart rate down as low as possible for the longest period of time on a long run. So, but then you kind of bounce back and you do another, what you call a Sunday long run. So, which is basically whatever you did on that Saturday, you cut that in half roughly, on average, and you cut that in half, and then that's what you're doing for your Sunday long run. So if I was doing a marathon on a Saturday, I'm doing a half marathon on a Sunday. So you're putting 30, 40, 50 miles in over the weekend, and you're putting in many, 30, 40, 50 mile weeks into 70, 80 mile weeks, So just to prepare for this, and I did this for 5 months straight. So it's a huge time commitment. But I'll tell you what, man, there's a lot of growth that happens in that time. There's a lot of good things that are happening. And my wife and I talk about this a lot. She's like, man, how can you do all this? How can you juggle all this? How can you still show up for us the way you do? You're building a business, a successful business. Like, how are you doing this? Well, I find when you do start to do these endeavors and you do this training, you get better, you get faster, you get more efficient. You find ways to do things better, and still give your full effort. Still, there's no tips or tricks or ways around things, what I mean? Like people like to think, but you just get more efficient in it. And then your energy levels through the roof. You know what I mean? Like I have energy. Like I wake up at 4 a.m. and I go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, and that's my routine, and I get shit done, so that's just what I do.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, because when I hear a lot of people, when they say they have families, families are often kind of like the fallback, I guess I'll say excuse that a lot of them will use, say, oh, well, I don't have time to go to the gym because I got kids, I got this, I got a job and everything like that. But then, going back to what we were talking about with Cam Hanes, I did listen to his book Endure on Audible. And one thing I didn't know about him that I learned in the book is that while he's bow hunting, while he's running pretty much a marathon every other day or even every day, something along those lines, he's still working a full-time job. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea. I thought bow hunting, I thought that was his job and his brand, and of course all his affiliations with like Origin and Under Armour and everything. Mm-hmm. But he's working a full-time job this whole time. So I guess you can really just take that whole I have a family, I have a job excuse and just throw that away, because that doesn't really mean much of anything. I mean, correct. Like all these people who are doing these amazing things that we see, they're just regular people. There's nothing special about them. They just make this decision to go out and do these things.
Yeah, for sure. It's becoming efficient with your time. I mean, what are your priorities? That's where it's at. It's you've got to come up with, your list of priorities in life and what you want to achieve through those priorities. And then you've got to make a plan or have a system in place to do it. And I didn't, you know my story. I didn't always have that. I was very complacent in my life. I was not living my life to my full. I was depressed. I was fat. I was overweight. I was, I was not showing up for my family, being a good leader. I wasn't showing up for my business, being a good leader in my business. Depressed, different things going on, man. Like I was over 290 pounds when I started this journey. So that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, not long ago at all, actually.
Yeah. So I had some rough years there where I just was really, especially after COVID, and I don't blame COVID. I just got complacent, and I'm sure a lot of people did in that moment. I'm sure there's a lot of people that got inspired too in that moment. So, which is great. For me, I was like, well, I took a look in the mirror one day and I was like, enough is enough. It's time to get efficient with my time. It's time to quit making excuses. It's time to make this lifestyle a priority. And I'm going to do it for myself in a sense that like the best I become is going to help my family level up and become better. And then if I can do that with my family, hopefully I can make an impact and inspire and motivate other men around me as well. And that's definitely what's happened.
Well, and then I also think what I've observed from you, and this is something I've been working on as well, is your ability to focus. And that's, I think, what plays it a lot into this as well. When we go about talking with you, training, and you showing up as a husband and father, is you're able to focus on each one of those things very, very well. Because I think in this day and age, someone who has the ability to focus is like a superpower, because you got all of these things out there that's just vying for our attention. You got social media, you got all these streaming services, and so on and so forth. I can't remember what streaming platform it was. It might have been Netflix, but I'm not sure if this is 100%. But I think someone said that our greatest competitor is sleep.
Yep. I think it's Netflix.
I think it might have been Netflix that said that.
That's who they market against.
Yeah, it's against people's sleep. And of course, you and I know how important that is. So, but I think in this day and age, it's just if you have the ability to like focus on whatever singular task that you're working on, and just put the phone away and not just feel tempted to scroll through social media every 5 seconds, then the amount of like mental span that you have to really get shit done is pretty astronomical. And that's definitely been my work, because I will admit I'm guilty of that too, getting caught in that thing, because these social media platforms, they employ the best behavior psychologists in the world. They're trying to find any which way to just maintain our attention for as long as possible. So, but I think when you have an understanding of that, you can actually just see it for what it is and just kind of avoid it.
You find ways to combat it, and I'm not perfect at it either. And my wife will be the first to tell you, like, get off your phone. You know what I mean? Hang out with the kids, hang out with us. And I think it's one of those things, it's a double-edged sword, because we have to use social media to build business and
that's how you and I got connected.
To stay connected with people, so it's kind of part of the deal. But I've had to get definitely more intentional about my usage and when I use it and how I use it, the times I use it. And, it wasn't always that way, though. It started out small. It's kind of a snowball effect, just like anything that ends up being good. It takes time. And over time, if you are intentional, you have a good plan in place, or you have a good system in place, and then you're consistent with it over time, you're going to get better. And focus is the same way. I think I've built just a good habit of staying more focused in. I use my time wisely. I get up early. I get good sleep at night. I'm intentional about the foods I eat, my nutrition. I drink water. I'm intentional about turning off my notifications on my phone. I don't have my notifications on. There's just a lot of little things like that I've built into my life to help me be more efficient and more intentional with my time. So.
And, I hate to say this, but you can really kind of see how inefficiency is very prevalent, just amongst like the greater populace. I kind of told you on our way here that I've somehow designed my life in a way where I'm flying out of an airport at least once a week now. And if you just want to see like inefficiency, like to the max, it's just like go through an airport. I mean, let me tell you. And I'm going to be rattling off some pet peeves here. And I'm pretty sure, my audience, they'll either resonate or they're not going to like me, and for whatever reason. But anyway, it's just when I see people like get on a plane, I can just tell that like just basic movement patterns are not practiced very often. Like the idea of just like walking in like a straight line and just being able to have spatial awareness with people around you, or not being able to figure out a basic configuration of letters and numbers to find their seats in well laid out rows and columns, and so on and so forth.
They just don't travel as much as you do.
Fair enough. But then also it's just, I was telling you about how if there's ever a time where there's a flight of stairs next to an escalator, I'm like probably the only one that's going to take the stairs, and everyone else is lining up for the escalator. And I'm just like going to take that. And I see this a lot, especially if I travel internationally, and, like the customs booths will be like upstairs. I just make a mad dash. So I'm like, the first one in line at customs and everything. So it's just, but it's, and then people like look at me from the escalator, kind of like,
who's this weirdo?
Like what's he doing? Like, why is he going up the stairs? And then, or even, and you've seen a lot of my stories that I post. If I have a long layover, if I get to the airport early, I just do like an airport ruck where I just listen to a podcast. Of course, yeah. And then people like look at me weird when I make it to the end of a concourse, and I like actually like hit the wall, touch the wall, and then turn around to go walk to the other end. And then because everyone else is just sitting down, and I'm using this opportunity to get up and practice some movement. So it is kind of weird how just, movement is weird. Like me going for a walk while everyone else wants
just
to
because
sit
it's
down,
at the airport.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, well, I'm about to sit on a plane for about 3 hours. I'm going to get up and move right now. I'm going to use this time as best I can. But it's just, that's just what it is in the modern day where, it's just going out and running very, very far like you did. If you want to go back a couple hundred years ago, a couple thousand years ago, that was just called commonplace.
Yeah, that's how you went out and got your food.
Exactly. It's like you get out of your cave, you go hunt or you die.
Yeah.
You go out and you gather food or you die. You fight off that, invading force that's trying to come into your camp and steal all your stuff or you die.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. No, and here's the thing, like, again, you're just being more efficient with your time. You're practicing intentionality with the time that you do have. I'm a lot like you in the sense that, like, I'm not a guy who likes to just be sitting around. So, I mean, there is times to rest and take a moment or take a break for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't watch TV. I don't really screw around too much. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm at the airport, same thing with me, like I'm taking the stairs, like, cause that's just, to me, I like to do it. I'm getting more movement in. I feel better when I do that. If I'm waiting for an oil change, like I'm doing some air squats, I'm doing some push-ups. Like people look at me and think I'm weird, think I'm crazy, but you know what? I'm just being intentional about my time. Like I've got a little bit of extra time. I got 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. Why not get 15,000 or get 5,000 steps in? Why not get a few air squats in, some push-ups in? I feel better at the end of the day knowing that, hey, even though I didn't go get a full workout in, I still got some work in. You know what I mean? And that makes me feel good, makes me feel efficient, and it makes me feel like I moved the needle for the day. So, yeah.
Well, and I think you and I, we have obligations to be that way, especially like with you and I kind of in leadership roles now. Of course, you being the leader of a family, and then of course now you trying to like lead these men through high caliber nation or even through high caliber hunts, you know, just putting on these hunts for these men and making sure that they get the best that they can out of their experience. And then of course. I'm an archaeological crew leader, and so it's just making sure that I show up to the field each day, not only for my crew members that, are under, my care, but then also like my clients that, are expecting me to show up effectively and lead and get some good results. So it's just, fitness and efficiency and having focus, that all weighs into that because it's just like, if I'm sluggish, if I'm slacking, if I'm just, managing my time like not very well and just feeding my head with a bunch of nonsense, then it's just I'm gonna fall short on all those metrics.
Well, and the people, whether we realize it or not, everybody's paying attention. You know what I mean? They really are. I mean, maybe some people aren't, but I find that people pay more attention than you realize, and whether they're doing anything or not about it, they are paying attention. And our energy plays a huge role in that. You know what I mean? Like they're going to feed off of our energy. So if you're out in the field, and you're getting after it and you're leading from the front, like what do you think your crew and your team is going to do? You know what I mean? They're going to follow your lead. And that's the mentality I like to have with my family, with everything I do. And I didn't always have that. Like I said, like that wasn't who I was. I was the guy who was kind of always slacking off, kind of screwing around. You know what I mean? And once I realized like how important it was, that true leadership was me leading from the front, me being the one to go first, and then people responding to that, like that shift in my mind was like huge for me. That unlocked so much for me in my life. And I just had a phone call with a guy today who wanted to hear about my 100-mile run, and he's like, man, I don't think you realize like I'm trying to lead my team. He's a business owner and stuff like that. I'm trying to lead my team, and I just can't get him to listen. Like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like, I'm doing everything right. I feel like I'm giving him all the resources and all this stuff. And he's like, but then I see you, and like, you don't really talk a lot. You just kind of go out and do things. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, yeah, that's kind of how I lead. I'm not this rah-rah guy who's pumping everybody up all the time. I have been that guy in the past, but I've kind of transformed and become this guy who just find something hard to do and I go do it. And I let people come along with me if they want to come along with me. You know what I mean? And I encourage them to, of course. And he's like, man, like, I don't think you realize like how big of a deal that is. And maybe I don't, because maybe I'm kind of crazy too, but
maybe just a little bit,
just a little bit, but he thinks I am. So, but it is, there's something to be said for that. It's super important to, just be that person who leads from the front. That's how you're going to get people to do things, to help you build your business, to help you lead your team, whatever that is,
Mm-hmm. You remember that movie We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson?
Yeah, I do.
There was that scene where he's giving the speech to all of his men before they're getting ready to deploy to Vietnam, and he says that I will be the first one to step on the battlefield, and I'll be the last one to step off. And that's something that I always make sure that I do. Is just
so powerful,
because you have like it's just the way with like archaeology. You have like some people who are more experienced in the field and some people who are new. Some people may be faster diggers and they may finish their work before others. And, I'm always making sure that like if there's some people who still are finishing up like they're digging, I'll be like, hey, let me come screen for you, or let me come do this for you. Cause like, and then I don't go anywhere until I make sure that all of my people are heading out of the field and I can actually like count each one of them. I'm like, okay, we showed up with like X number of people. We're leaving with the same number of people. Yeah. And I think for the most part, that seems pretty appreciated. I even had some of them express their appreciation to say, I appreciate awesome. You, not leaving me out here by myself.
That's awesome, man. So that's a way to do it, man. Yeah,
absolutely. So, so now getting this 100-miler out of the way, when it comes to like endurance events like these, it seems like when I'm actually in them, like myself, I've done Spartan races. I've ran a marathon myself. And of course, I did my through hike across Michigan.
Exactly.
There's usually at least one time where things don't always go the best. And I'm usually saying, oh, I'm never doing this shit again. Like, not at all.
That dark place.
Exactly. But then it seems like inevitably every single time afterwards, I usually find myself saying, man, that was a blast. I can't wait to do that again. So I guess, we're less than a week out from you completing this thing. So I guess what's your mindset right now? Do you think you would want to do something like this again? Or are you kind of in that mindset where it's like, forget it. That's it. One and done, 100 miles and done,
I won't lie, man. I've been looking at races online, like literally the last 3 days. Like I've been like resting, I guess you could call it, and catching up on work and stuff like that. And I almost signed up for 100K this morning. It's going to be in 3 weeks. So, and I think I'm going to go home and sign up for it tonight, actually. Like, no joke. Like, nice. Which is 62 point some miles. It just seems small now. Like, I mean, anything could go wrong, during any kind of ultra run. I mean, something could go wrong, but these endurance races definitely like have already piqued my interest a lot more. I'm already thinking about Moab 240. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but Moab. I
think I might have heard about that in David Goggins' book.
Yeah,
because I think he did it
in his latest book. He talks a lot about that doing Moab, and I'm already thinking about Moab. Like, unfortunately, it's during hunting season. I think it's middle of October, so I'm probably not going to do it this year. But I think, man, 2024 is looking really good. I'm going to start planning ahead, I think, for Moab, which you basically have to take a week off from your life, obviously, to get, to go out and do that, because it's like it's going to take at least 100, anywhere between 80 to 130 hours to complete that, 240 miles. So that's an adventure, definitely an adventure race. But already this year, I've got a last man standing event I'm signed up for in June. Which
never heard of that one before.
So it's called the Mid-State Mile, or they call it the Murder Mile. I don't know if you know who Chad Wright is by chance, but anyway, Chad, the 3 of 7 project. Chad is pretty well known for doing a lot of ultra running and endurance events, and he's won that race like 3 different times, I believe. And then there's a couple other guys that have won it the last couple of years. But basically what it is, it's a 1.1 mile loop, and you get 20 minutes to complete it. And you do that until everybody's done, until everybody's like drops out. So you just go all day, all night, all day, all night until everybody's done. So you get 20 minutes. So, my buddy Tyler, who crewed me on, I think you got to connect with Tyler through social media.
Tyler Geiger.
Not Performance. Tyler has done this race, I think, the last 2 years. So he's the one who kind of encouraged me. He's like, hey, man, you got to come do this. I think he got 68 miles last year, and he got 9th place, so which is pretty cool.
That's impressive.
I think that was in like 40-some hours, roughly, or maybe 30-some hours or something like that. But basically, I think there is a couple breaks in there where they do like a 20-minute break for people so they can use the bathroom, and like they have to there's like a mandatory like I don't know, like some rules in the state of Tennessee. I think that you have to take a mandatory 20-minute break or
Oh,
something
really?
like that.
I was like, oh shit, into adventure racing
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something.
it's stupid, but anyway, so that I mean, I'm already signed up for that one in June. I'll be going to do that. Me and Tyler are doing that one together.
Nice.
And like I said, I'm already looking ahead. Like, what other 100-milers, what other 50Ks, 100Ks can I do coming up here? In the next few months, I'm already in good shape right now the way it is. I guess I just got to see what my recovery looks like, and it seems like it's going pretty good already. I mean,
yeah, just keep the mobility up.
Yeah, I got to keep my mobility up. I'm gonna start to implement some more cold baths and continue doing some sauna stuff and just doing a ton of stretching and obviously I lift too. Like, I lift hard and I train hard. So I mean, that just having that mixture of things into my routine, it's my lifestyle. It's who I am. And obviously, as part of High Caliber Nation, like, I'm teaching and training other guys to do these same things as well. This is part of building up the performance in your life is doing these things as well. So it all translates over to my clients and helping them learn from what I'm doing as well. So I'm always testing and trying to learn new little and implement new little things in my life as well. Anyway, so yeah, man, definitely already looking ahead. Like, I'm dead set serious. I think I'm going to go home and sign up for that 100K tonight. It's like $75. It's only 3 hours away from here. It's in, I think, I can't even remember, somewhere West Texas. But anyway, it seems like a pretty cool one. I'm already trying to talk my wife into coming to do that one, to maybe do the 25K or the 50K of that one too. So, but yeah, man, I'm definitely, like, I'm ready to rock. Let's go. Let's keep this endurance stuff going. I love it.
Well, sometimes that's what you have to do. You just got to get something on the calendar and just, put in the work up for it. And, once you got it on there, just don't negotiate with it, right? I mean, like, I've had to do that a couple of times because I felt like if I didn't, then I would start rationalizing all these things in my head to not do it. Yep. And that was like with my first hunt with you, because like I said, I was nervous about, meeting Kyle and then coming here and hunting with you. And because Kyle's got 500,000 Instagram followers and he's like way ahead of me on like a lot of things. And but still, though, it's just, I mean, I just had to send you the deposit and then send you the rest of the money and then just be like, let's go. And it was the same thing, it's pretty much same day when you told me about hunting camp coming up this May. I'm like, all right, get the deposit sent over. I mean, good thing I had you saved on Venmo so that way I can get it to you. And it was the same thing with with me signing up for the Spartan Ultra race that I have here in October. And so, I mean, that's going to be something I've never done before. The furthest I've ran was a marathon, and that was back in like my early 20s, and I'm pushing 40 at the moment. So a lot of people think that at this age that's probably something I shouldn't do. But I'm like, well, I find that the older I get, I should be pushing harder on the accelerator, not letting off.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's one thing I've really noticed over the last few months of training. Like, guys are really, I mean, don't get me wrong. I was afraid of signing up for this 100-miler. I was dead scared about it. Okay. But I also, like we mentioned already, like, I knew that it was going to push me beyond where I've ever been, and it was going to help me grow. That discomfort, that training, that everything that goes into, trying to run 100 miles, like, that's where the growth was going to happen. And I think so many people are so focused on the end result when they think about these different hard things that are going to get them out of their comfort zone, that's what prevents them from signing up. When quit thinking so much about the end result and think about the journey that you get to embark on and endure during that, leading up to it. That's where the focus needs to be. That's what you need to be thinking about. Yeah, it's going to be hard work, but all the good things are going to happen in that hard work. And then eventually you're going to be that polished diamond at the end where you're like, man, I'm so glad like you were saying, like, I'm so glad I did this. I'm so glad I endured this. I'm so glad I tried doing this. And here's the thing, whether you fail or, because here's the thing, like, I'm not signing up for these things or excited about these things because I think I'm just going to crush every single one. Like, there's something deep inside of me that, like, I still have a little bit of fear. It's like, man, I could twist an ankle. I could break a leg. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff that I could get sick again. I could get the flu again. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that can go wrong, and that's actually what makes it so intense. Like, that's where the intensity actually kicks up, and that's where I get my adrenaline, is like that, how at what a level I have to perform at to actually complete this 100 miles or complete this 62 miles or whatever it ends up being for that ultra race. Like that's what gets me excited about is like I could fail, and I know that in that failure, that's where the growth is going to be. So.
Mm-hmm. Or even it's just like the idea of maybe possibly failing or facing any of these situations that you just described. All the more reason to, keep the training going and everything like that, though, too. Because, I mean, if you can keep yourself mobile and flexible and in very good shape, that'll, not eliminate the risk. You can't always eliminate the risk, but you can at least kind of reduce the risk a little bit. So now, you kind of talked about not focusing so much on the end result. To a way, I agree with you, but I think one thing that at least I like to do, one of my mindset strategies, I do kind of like to cast myself out into the future and, kind of just visualize, someone who has the capabilities and the fortitude to complete an event like the one that I signed up for. Yeah. And then that kind of helps me just stay accountable in the present, where it's just like, especially when it comes to like these day-to-day decisions and all the things that we face along the way. I mean, obviously we were talking about like how you and I are kind of not necessarily pulled in different directions, but we're expected to show up in other areas of our lives. Of course. It's just, we got, our jobs, our careers, you're doing your coaching, you're a family man, and I'm traveling all the freaking time for my job. But I think about what kind of decisions would someone who can complete something like a Spartan Ultra, what would they make like in the present? I mean, are they going to not go out and complete their base run that they, had planned for the day just because they're feeling a little bit tired or, this, that, and the other? It's like, well, no, someone who's going to go do something like that, they're not just going to just lay about or just gaff off and, do all these other things or get swept up in social media to the point where they're spending hours on their phone. And then next thing you know, it's bedtime. Yeah. So it's like, they're going to put the phone down. Yeah. They're going to go run. Yeah. And like,
it's going to make you intentional about the decisions you make throughout the day, for sure. And that's what we want. Like, do I always have to be training for something? No, I don't think I do. I think I'll still I've built enough consistency into my life and built this as such a system into my life that like, I love it now. Like, this is just, it's my lifestyle. It's who I am. So do I need to be training for something? No. But like, I enjoy the opportunity of, setting these different goals and the opportunity to fail and going out and trying to fulfill them and achieve them, So, and I think it's less that, that people aren't, the focus on the end goal. I think it's not, here's the deal. I think a lot of guys will look at that end goal and it'll scare them so much that they won't sign up. That's what I don't want. Gotcha. Now, I don't think that you don't think about that end goal still. I think absolutely. Like there's every single time I was out for a run, I was visualizing myself completing that 100-mile race and what I was going to do when I did that. Like I thought about that all the time. Every single time I was out running, every single time I was stretching, every time I was lifting, I thought about that. Coming through that finish line at the end of that race, putting my hands up to the good Lord and just being proud of myself in that moment. I thought about that a lot and I visualized it and I thought about it. And that's important. Like you have to do those kinds of things. Like that's how you get yourself from point A to point B is having that as part of the routine. But don't look so far ahead that you're scaring the crap out of yourself that you're not going to the website and signing up, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had that same mindset when I was hiking across Michigan because it took me 3.5 months to walk those 1,200 miles, which looking back on it, it's kind of funny. It's just like it took me 3.5 months to go that far, but you did 1/10 of that distance in a day.
It is kind of interesting to think about.
Yeah, it is. It is. It
really why didn't you go faster, Josh?
I know. Yeah, clearly I was slacking the whole time. So, but yeah, it's just I thought about that moment many times over of just what it was going to be like. I mean, because, and I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have done this, but I did. Is like I actually found where the finish line was, like right where the North Country Trail meets the Ohio-Michigan state line, and which was going to be the ending point for walking across the entire state of Michigan. And I actually, did the little street view thing, and I saw what the road looked like, and I saw what was like kind of around me, and I was actually going to see if there was like any places for like my family to park, if they're going to come pick me up and everything. I mean, it was a very lackluster location. It was like, cornfields and stuff like that, nothing special. But, it's just, I knew that I had that place in my mind.
Visualized.
And what it was going to look like. And walking down that road and seeing like the blue blaze for the North Country Trail and touching that blue blaze and saying, okay, I'm done. And so yeah, that was on the back of my mind. And also,
awesome.
and of course, like the big thing for me was also because, this was something that was bigger than myself.
Correct.
I was doing it for to raise money for a nonprofit that helps veterans. And, and of course, some people had asked me, well, are you going to get sponsors for this thing? Like, how are you financing this? Because, to disappear from like the workplace for that length of time, I'm not getting any income. And so it's like, I had to set aside a good nest egg so that way I could do something like this for this long. Because the interesting thing, this little quick side note here, is that getting sponsors for something like this, typically a lot of companies may not want to sponsor like expeditions when there's a charity involved because they want all the eyes on them. Where it's like, I want the eyes to go towards the charity that I'm trying to raise money for. So I just made the decision to self-finance the whole thing.
And you were intentional about that, which is amazing. Like, you had to literally think about this way ahead of time, plan it all out, have it all in place, have it all ready to go, and then go do your adventure.
Yeah, and then of course, going back to making those decisions in the day, it's just like, obviously, if I need to set aside enough money to do this, it's just like, how am I doing my spending, like, each day? I mean, am I like getting all this like frivolous shit that's not really going to serve me very well down the line, or it's like, can I maybe just spend more time cooking at home versus having to eat out like, every weekend or whatever. And then eventually of course I put in a lot of overtime hours too. So that way, and all my overtime money went straight to, my savings that I set aside for this too. So cool. It was just a lot of like, just intentional choices over time, really. And that's really what it boils down to. It's just, it's just Rome wasn't built in a day. So I think, and I think that's like another thing that maybe holds a lot of people back, because it's just, and then that's also why, like, I think it's like 80% of New Year's resolutions like fail, because once there's a realization that work is involved, and that time and commitment and consistency is involved, and it kind of shies a lot of people away. So,
well, what are your priorities? And you changed your priorities in those moments, but it also probably changed your pattern and changed the way you live your life now too, because you've got more intentional about how you were doing certain things. You're like, man, I can probably just eat at home more often anyway. Like, I kind of enjoy doing this. This is a great way to live, and I'm learning how to cook more. I'm trying new things, whatever. As we implement these different things into our life, as we are intentional going towards whatever it is, whatever that end goal is, those little routines and those little plans we put in place, like, become a new part of our life, that's just growth in itself. And that's a wonderful thing. I mean, I'm sure there's probably a lot of things within that adventure, you planning and preparing for your trip, where you still implement some of those things now, right? I would assume. I mean, I know there's things that I'm going to implement now, because I'm more efficient with my time and I'm more intentional about how I do things. I'm implementing and they're becoming part of my lifestyle.
Yeah. And eventually you get to a certain point where you got to develop this lifestyle for yourself. And I hear a lot of people talk about this with programs like 75 Hard, where they're doing like this series of tasks for like 75 days straight. And then even when they complete 75 Hard and they're not tracking anything anymore, they will say that it would actually feel weird to not do those things like in the day, where now you're at this point where it would feel weird to not go for your run, or to not, go to your gym sessions to lift weights or whatever.
Does.
Yeah. So it's just, once you kind of got that set, it's just like doing anything other than that is weird. So.
Well, and my buddy Tyler and I were we were kind of laughing about this, and not like in a negative way, but like, you got all these people who do this 75 Hard thing, and it's awesome. If it's helping you grow and helping you get to another level, I love it. That's awesome. And I have a lot of respect for Andy and him, pushing this out there and putting that on the platform for him and his community and stuff like that. But it's like, my whole life is a 75 Hard. Like, I've been doing 75 Hard for months. Like, I just don't keep track of it. You know what I mean? And not that I'm taking a selfie picture every day or anything like that, but you get what I'm saying. Like, literally, I read every day, I run, I do a couple workouts a day. You know what I mean? Like, these are just things I'm doing on a daily basis anyway, because it's part of my routine. It's part of my life. So yeah, absolutely. Like, it becomes your new norm. And you start to implement these different things, and you find kind of what works for your routine. Going through this, like, one of the things that I had to be intentional about especially starting in 2023, is I kind of built into my daily schedule getting up at 4:30 in the morning. And the last couple days, I'll be honest, I haven't been getting up early, and it just trying to rest and kind of recuperate from being sick and then doing my race. It's felt weird. It's like, man, I'm out of my routine now because I'm so used to, all year I've been getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and doing my routine. And the last couple days I've been out of this routine. I'm like, I feel almost lost. And I'm like, okay, chill out, relax. Like, you're not lost. Everything's going to be okay. It's okay to take a little bit of a break and a rest. And you know what? You're going to get back in your routine and you're going to be okay. And everything's going to be back to normal again. So, well, you know, there is good things about, you know, having those routines in place. Don't get so lost if you get out of your routine that you can't, you know, obviously function right either. Right, there's something to be said for that.
Now, you mentioned that you were weightlifting during this time as you were getting ready for the run, which, you know, I wouldn't say seems counterintuitive, but I mean, obviously there's, you know, it's just a straight run. It's like, it's not like an obstacle course race or anything like that. Yep. So I guess just what did your weightlifting sessions look like in the gym? Were you focusing on like muscular endurance? Were you doing hypertrophy? I mean, what did that look like?
Yeah. So as part of this, like I still, like my goal was to lose 100 pounds and then run 100 miles. So when I started training for this, I was about 215-ish, 220-ish. So I had, you know, 20, 30 pounds. I think I had 25. I think I was like 220. So I had 30 pounds to lose. No, I was 215. That's right. I was about.
Did you say this was like 5 months ago? When you
5 months ago. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So, and I had obviously lost a bunch of weight already up into that point. So I'm feeling good. My body's starting to look good or whatever, you know, and I've got some muscle definition coming in. And now the endurance side is what I wanted to build up as well as part of this. So for me, like, I don't want to be some skinny guy who's just some skinny runner guy. Like, I want to have that good hybrid build. I want to be strong, fast, lean, you know, obviously able to hike the mountains and kill elk with my bow and arrow. That's the idea. That's the hope. That's the goal.
So you're just looking for a very versatile approach.
Correct.
To
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
Even though like you are training for something specific, you still want to maintain that versatility.
Yeah, and my goal here wasn't to be the fastest guy out at that 100-mile race. You know what I mean? It was just to finish it. You know, obviously now, I set goals where I want to go faster now moving forward. Yeah, of course. But you can still get efficient in your running, even at a higher, you know, even being stronger and a little bit higher weight. I don't have to run at 190 pounds. You know what I mean? I can be 200, 210 pounds and still be an efficient runner. Because there's actually a lot of strength involved in running that people don't realize, and it also prevents a lot of prevents a lot of injury as well, and that's a big part of it. So, my weightlifting sessions were basically, you know, the 5x5 style weightlifting. You know what I mean? It's just like anybody's doing, where, you know, I'm doing deadlifts, I'm doing squats, I'm doing bench press. Those are my main 3 big lifts, but I'm also doing, you know, upper, lower, full body. Like, I'm doing a little bit of everything, 3 days a week at least. And, like, I was trying to gain muscle through that. You know, I'm getting my protein levels as high as I can. I'm taking my creatine. I'm doing everything I need to do. Now I didn't really focus on any lower body days per se, where it was just all lower body. Like, it was more like full body on my, you know, I guess there wasn't really lower body. It was like a lot of full body days where I was doing some upper body, but then I was doing some deadlifts or I was doing some squats and stuff like that. But as I progressed, I kind of lightened things back up as I got towards the end, because I didn't want to overdo it towards the end as I was getting ready to run. So I kind of hit a peak point where I was like, oh, cool, I've made some gains, but then I kind of stayed back, you know, and kind of worked my way back down. But now my goal is to start to put more muscle back on as well. I hit that 190 goal, and now I'm back up to about 200, 205 right now. And I probably want to get up to about 210, 215, stack some muscle on, continue to work on, you know, lightening my belly, getting a little less belly fat. You know, when you lose over 100 pounds, like, you got a lot of loose skin and stuff like that. So I want to tighten up my body. I want to tighten up my skin. I want to work on my abs. I want to, you know, continue to get stronger, but also still be able to stay efficient in my running, because obviously I still have these goals to stay as an endurance athlete. With a hybrid style build. So hope that answers your question a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because you do see like career runners and ultra runners, and, you know, they do have like a certain like aesthetic to them. Like, you know, you see them, like, that's like, you know, an ultra runner, and that's what he does. I kind of like the similar approach as well. And I think that's why I was, was kind of drawn to maybe doing an obstacle course race, because much of what the training entails, and, just like what you mentioned, kind of like the 5x5, like full body weightlifting sessions, like, 3 times a week, because, obviously, like, you probably wouldn't be able to do like straight hypertrophy. Like I know that's typically like the bro splits where you do buys and tries one day, you do back another day and everything like that. Not really quite that there, but still being strong and being, efficient like we've been talking about, because obviously I got to do a lot of climbing. I'm going to have to carry some things. And, but that's one thing I've kind of been drawn to like obstacle course racing is because, with me putting my archaeology hat on here, thinking about our ancient ancestors, that's probably like one of the closest things that we could do. Of course. That resembles like, those patterns of movements, it's just like carrying things and, well, throwing spears, I guess, would be like the fighting aspect of it and everything. So, and running really far. It's just like, I think it wasn't uncommon for our ancient ancestors to go like going 20 miles a day, whether it's walking, running, or a combination of the two. That was just
that was just part of life.
That was daily life.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and again, I think you're starting to see more and more of these guys focus on being strong as well, because it has its benefits. You know what I mean? Like the injury prevention is really a big part of that. And then obviously being able to be strong for other things that you do in your life. Most of us guys now who are trying to pursue these athletic endeavors and endurance endeavors aren't just doing one specific thing. We're trying and doing all different kinds of things. I'm doing jujitsu, I'm bow hunting, I'm running. I'm thinking about doing some of these high rocks events and some of these other Spartan type events as well. And ultimately it's because I want to be good for the mountains potentially. You know what I mean? I want to get out west and hunt elk in the mountains. And to be able to do that, you have to be strong. You have to be nimble. You have to be lean. You have to have all these different areas built into your life. Another thing too is like just being able to focus on your nutrition on a daily basis too. Like, getting a lot more lean protein in, I'm really starting to play around with maybe going back to a carnivore style diet. Like I love carbs and I eat a ton of carbs, and it did me well, I think, for this endurance run. But there's a lot of guys that are playing around out there with some of this carnivore style, keto style eating that are having a lot of efficiency in their training endeavors, as they work towards whether it's endurance events or hunting or whatever, these different things. So I'm just a guy who likes to test and try new things. Like I don't know everything about everything, but I follow a lot of different stuff. I read a lot of studies. I want to try different things. So as I move forward, like that's kind of where I'm at, especially kind of being a coach now too. Like you want to be able to have a lot of knowledge in a lot of different areas so you can, help your different clients with different style bodies and different endeavors that they want to go towards, different goals that they have, be able to reach those goals too. So being able to have that knowledge in those different areas and try it on yourself, like that's kind of a really cool thing as well. We were talking about Ben Greenfield earlier. Mm-hmm. He's the ultimate guy. I love his stuff.
Straight biohacking.
Yeah, because he's doing those kinds of things, whether it's red light therapy or cold plunging or hacking your daily, plan or whatever, your daily, routine, all these different things, how you cook, how you spend time with your family, how you meditate, gratitude, journaling, all this different stuff, man. It's all part of just living a high caliber lifestyle. It's all about living an efficient, performance driven lifestyle. And that's just who I've become now. So yeah, man, I'm super interested in all these different areas and how I can be my best in all of them.
So what did you kind of find, like diet-wise? I want to kind of talk about that next. And, this is a selfish question because obviously I'm kind of thinking about this myself, training for an endurance event myself. You mentioned that, carbs, you said, or at least you said you love carbs. Who doesn't, right? But was that pretty much most of your diet, very carb heavy and maybe not quite as much meat? I guess kind of take us through that.
Well, for me, like I've always been a guy who's obviously been a hunter and an outdoorsman. So lean protein and venison is what we eat on a daily basis. So we have my freezers are stock full of it. We have a ton of it, and then my in-laws, they raise grass-fed cattle as well. So nice. We've got a bunch of that. So that is number one. Protein has always been number one staple, but obviously I was overweight. So I liked snacks. I drank soda. I candy bars, chocolate, Twinkies, all the junk. I was on top of all that all the time. And so really, as I kind of went down this lifestyle change, I cut a lot of that out. I really don't do a lot of snacks anymore. I don't, I'll still eat sugary type stuff at times, but not as much. You know what I mean?
Very much in moderation.
Yeah, in moderation, just because it doesn't really, I don't get excited about it as much anymore. But what I find is a lot of people try to they try to go one way or the other, like, oh, all meat, no carbs, or all carbs, no, you have to have protein. Like, you can't just cut out protein. Right. So you got to have protein. But some guys are like, oh, all fat diet, keto, carnivore, whatever. And don't get me wrong, these diets can work for different people. It's really the consistency factor that plays a part in it, and where your calories are at as well. You know what I mean? But for me, I found that focusing on getting about a pound of lean protein per pound of my weight. So me being at 200 pounds, I try to get 200 grams of protein in every day. And then focusing on kind of keeping my calorie either in a deficit or at a balance, at a medium during the day is either going to help me lose weight, or it's going to help me stay where I need to be. Or if I need to go a calorie surplus, I'm going to probably either put on muscle or put on a little bit of weight, which is hopefully going to be muscle because I'm lifting weights. So I found that, like, not even focusing on my carbs and my fats as much, and just focusing on my protein and my calories has really been a perfect place for me to be. That's where I can find, I can change those out to reach my goals the way I want to reach them. But like I said, now I am playing around a little bit with some of these other things because I want to try them. I want to see how I sleep better, how my body feels, how my body reacts. You know what I mean? I've been doing this now for a couple of years, so I have confidence in I can eat certain ways, and I know that I can come back to my baseline, and I'm not like going to put on 40 pounds and like be back to who I used to be. Like, that's just not who I am. I built this as a lifestyle now. I've learned how to eat. I understand how my body works and how food goes into my body. So I like to play around with it. But for me, like I said, a lot of lean protein, not really focusing on my carbs and my fats as much, but focusing on trying to, I think right now I'm at about 2,500 calories a day, to be about maybe in a little bit of a calorie deficit at 2,500 calories, but I'm going to start upping that now, probably adding about 100 calories a week over the next few weeks, and kind of just heal my body back up from being in a deficit for so long. And then hopefully get up to around, 3,000, 3,400 calories a day. And then, maybe get up to like that 215, 220-ish mark, and then cut back down before, summertime, and really kind of see what that does with my body. So I'm testing, and I'm trying, and I'm playing around with this stuff and trying to see how it works with my body.
Well, so having to get like that levels of protein, you're talking about like you were around 200 pounds at the time, and so trying to get around 200
grams of protein.
Protein. So did that involve supplementation at all, or you think you were able to actually just straight through food actually maybe hit that benchmark?
You can go straight through food. I do a lot of Greek yogurt. I do a lot, like I said, I do a lot of venison, chicken, a lot of that kind of stuff. But I'll do some protein bars and stuff like that as well. But yeah, I do a lot of Jocko. We're drinking the Jocko stuff.
Jocko
right
Go.
I do supplement with some of their protein powders as well, and that really does help out. So
and the milk's pretty good too.
Oh yeah, it tastes amazing. And now they have the new RTD, which is pretty awesome too.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that. Okay.
Basically ready to drink. Like, it's in a little 30 gram per serving or per deal bottle.
Gotcha.
But so yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing, like, I'm a busy guy, I'm on the go as well too, so definitely supplementing always helps with my busy lifestyle. Having those things at hand quickly makes it easy for me. But I teach and I coach on getting as much as you can out of good whole foods, focusing on the whole food aspect, supplementing outside of that, where you need to. There's nothing wrong with supplementing. There's just a lot of crappy supplements on the market.
You got to be careful.
So you do have to be careful. And that's why, I really trust in what Jocko Fuel is doing with their stuff. I think that they're doing a really good job with it. And I've got to know them on a personal level, Brian and Pete and those guys. So I know that they're doing a good job and they want to be clean. And then if you listen to Jocko talk about it, like one of the reasons why he started it in the first place was the fact that he wanted clean fuel. He wanted to have stuff that was going to be good energy and not going to hurt his body. You know what I mean? Because some of the stuff he was taking prior was crap. You know, it was junk. Basically, they were testing it and finding it didn't have the right stuff in it, you know, that he needed. So supplementing isn't a bad thing, but I recommend getting as much as you can out of your diet, out of your food. Learn how to do that first, and then supplement beyond that based around your lifestyle and kind of how busy you are and those kinds of things.
Well, yeah, and then going back to this idea of whole foods, it's just like, I guess maybe a good baseline, because I mean, for some people they may ask, well, what does that mean? Whole foods and everything like that. And also there's a lot of like marketing ploys out there where a lot of like, foods want to advertise themselves as healthy, but then, just look at the ingredients. This isn't, good for you. But I think like, I'd say if a food didn't exist 100 years ago, it's probably not something that, I think would necessarily be considered healthy. So like go back a little bit here, or I'll say again, just put my archaeology hat on here. Like, if you can kill it, pick it or pluck it, it's probably good for you.
Yeah, it's a great way to look at it. Exactly. And here's the thing, like, I'm not a scientist. I'm not like some nutritional expert or anything like that. Now, do I follow some of those guys who are talking about this stuff? Yeah, absolutely. And I think you could get really rigid and really disciplined and probably eat perfect if you want to. But I think that also can hold a lot of people back too. So, build your diet around, again, getting as much protein base as you can. I recommend a gram of protein per pound of body weight that you have, or whatever your goal body weight is if you're trying to lose some body weight. And then focus on making sure that you're hitting your calorie mark where you need to be. So if you're trying to lose weight, you obviously need to be in a calorie deficit. If you're trying to gain weight, you need to be in a calorie surplus. If you're trying to stay the same weight or even just put on muscle, you need to be at a median level, So that's really my focus. And then fill in the gaps around that. Like, what is going to help you meet those goals? And obviously part of that is you have to track. I track on a daily basis. I track I've got my phone on me right here, and I have an app that I use. And I have with my coaching, I have my own app that I use with my clients, and they can track all their food right in my app. It makes it really easy for them. Nice. So yeah, it's awesome. And I can go in there and I can see what they've been eating. And I can see, I can keep my eye on them, because here's the thing. 90% of the people who know that they have somebody looking over their shoulder are going to have success in what they do. And when you track, that's where you get results. So that's why there's stats in sports, because the people, when you track in sports and you see that Tom Brady throws 5 touchdowns a game, that's the guy you want to have on your team, because we can see that he's a great quarterback and he's winning games because he's got good stats, those kinds of things. So I'm a believer in really, tracking and really being efficient with those areas.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, I appreciate the point as well, where you kind of talk about, you don't take things like to the extreme, where it's like some, people would say, oh, I'm just going to do like all meat, or no, I just want all fats, or no, give me just all carbs or whatever. It's just, maybe, I guess I'd say personally, I mean, I've experimented with like a couple of those things, and some of them, they work very good, like, for a time, but for like for the rest of my life, certainly not.
Yeah.
But then of course, like, you have some people that would take it to the extreme where they say like, oh yeah, I'm not going to eat any sweets. If I go to a birthday party, for my nephew, I'm not eating any of his cake or whatever. But, I sometimes would wonder, it's just, how far do you really want to like, take that, where it's just like, because not everyone in our lives is going to follow like the same rigid thing as us. Like, I remember, at my old job, I used to work for the Park Service, and occasionally people would bring in like boxes of donuts, and then to share with everyone. And typically, I won't take like a box of donuts that came from a donut shop or whatever. But then like if I had a particular coworker, she loved to bake. Like baking was kind of like a passion of hers, and she made like these lemon bars and brought them in the office, one day, and she offered it to everyone. It's like, now, am I going to say like no to like a lemon bar that, she obviously put the time and investment, and she had like a passion for doing this particular thing? It's like, of course I'm going to try one of her lemon bars. Of course. And they were amazing too. By the way, quick side note. But yeah, it's just, I mean, but what am I going to tell her? It's just like, oh no, I don't eat that stuff. No, because I'm this, that, big macho man or whatever. So.
Well, here's the cool thing about it. Because I'm tracking what I eat on a daily basis, like, I know where I'm at on the day. Like, I know where my calories are at. I know how much protein I have. I know typically where my carbs and my fats are at during the day, my macro levels. So like I can fit anything I want to eat into my diet the way I want to because I'm still hitting my goals. You know what I mean? Ultimately. So a lot of people I find, obviously I'm a coach now and I'm helping men lose fat and lose weight on a daily basis. And I find a lot of those clients came to me because they just don't even know they don't understand food at all. Like that's their biggest struggle, which it is for most of us, is the nutrition. You see a lot of these people go to the gym for the first, 4 weeks, 6 weeks of the year because they have these huge goals to get back in shape, and they quit because they didn't lose any weight. Well, you know why they didn't lose any weight, even though they were working out the whole time, is because they weren't tracking their food and they're just eating whatever they wanted. So you can't outwork a crappy diet. You just can't. No. You gotta track your food. You gotta know where you're at on a daily basis. If you're gonna lose fat and you're gonna lose weight, you gotta be in a calorie deficit. That's science. It is science. Yeah. So I know exactly where I'm at on a daily. I mean, for the most part, I do when I'm tracking. I know where I'm at. And that helps me and gives me the opportunity to go have a slice of pizza during the day, or go out and after this we're gonna go have some freaking awesome barbecue.
I'm excited for that.
So and I know I can do that, and it's gonna still fit right into my goals because I know right where I'm at. So
yeah, well, and just quick caveat for everyone, we're in downtown San Antonio, Texas. I just moved here, and so of course, yes, we have to go get barbecue. I mean, I think that's kind of like a must do. If you move to Texas and you're not trying barbecue almost immediately upon getting here, then I don't think you're doing the move right. So
well, we went and had some good barbecue last time you were here, right? We went
yes,
before your hunt. We went and had a Hard 8.
That's right.
Me, you, and Kyle. That was amazing. And now we're going to go across the street and have some Pinkertons, which is amazing barbecue again. So you've got those are probably my two favorite places here in Texas to have barbecue. So you're right on ball, man. This is a great move for you.
Yeah, I remember when we pulled into Hard 8. You can actually see the smoke, coming out of the chimneys and everything like that. Awesome. And the whole smoking, cooking area was outside, and the area that they had set aside for it was either just as big or if not bigger than the actual restaurant seating area inside too. And that's how they were kind of doing it right.
Oh yeah.
And, I'm getting all excited just thinking about it. Yeah, just going through the line, you got the smorgasbord of all this goodness right there too. I went crazy my first time.
That's what I love about, I'm obviously from Minnesota. I'm from up north too. And we have some okay barbecue, but it's not like Texas. Tyler was just here obviously to help crew me. And, on Thursday night, after I picked him up from the airport, we came down here to have Pinkertons, and he's like, "Dude, I cannot believe how good this is." I've had barbecue from Kansas City, I've had barbecue from Memphis, because he lived in Tennessee
barbecue,
and he's like, and those are both good barbecue. Don't get me wrong, but he's like, this doesn't even touch Texas barbecue, not even close. And I didn't even get to eat any because I had the flu that night. So I've been sitting here thinking, man, I'm excited to have some barbecue. I won't lie.
Yeah. So, well, a couple more questions for you before we go out and indulge ourselves. One thing I did actually want to talk about is just, going out and doing this 100-mile race. There was a lot more to this than just getting the miles. I mean, obviously you said you had, Tyler came down with you. That was part of your crew. And then of course your family was there. So there's a community around you doing this thing. So can you just kind of just take us through just that aspect of it? Just that, that there's just more, there's a team here. I mean, obviously you're the one that's out, doing the 100-mile race, but you're not totally alone in doing this. So just take us through that aspect of it.
And one thing you'll find about, and I didn't know this about the ultra running community, is how important the teamwork aspect of it is, and just the the strategy aspect of ultra running. It's huge. It's a strategy game as well. Once you're in shape and your body's ready to go, you've got that part of it. You can manage that part of it, okay? But the other parts of it that you can't manage is having your nutrition ready for you when you come into a stop, into an aid station or whatever, having batteries in your headlamp, having extra batteries, because you're out there running for hours and hours and hours. So you have to have people that have this stuff ready, or you can carry it on you too, but you're also trying to be as light as possible because you don't want to be carrying a bunch of stuff out there. So the team aspect of this and the strategy aspect of ultra running is massive. It's such a crucial part of it. So it starts out with, obviously I had a coach. So I hired a coach to work with me, to give me a training plan that was going to help me reach my goals, first of all. So that was number one. I followed his plan to a T. And because of that, that made me efficient through my training. And then you get there and, you know, you're making sure you understand what the course looks like. This was a 20-mile loop. So we were running the 20-mile loop five times in a row.
Gotcha.
But a lot of these ultra races are either out and back or all the way throughs or whatever, you know what I mean? So it just depends from race to race. Or like I was telling you about that last man standing event. That one's a 1.1 mile loop. So like all these different endurance events are different, built in different ways. They even have ones that are like half-mile tracks or quarter-mile tracks. Can you imagine? Like that's what you go around and around and around. Like there's strategy involved in that though too, because you're doing that over and over and over again. So yeah, my wife was there. Tyler was there to crew me. You know, so he's getting prepped up and ready, and like I was able to call him or text him as I was getting, you know, on my last mile, and like, hey man, I need this, ready to go. Like I'm feeling hungry for this, because here's the thing, like as you run during this race, you're losing calories. You have to be eating, you have to be drinking, right. You have to consistently be thinking about your nutrition. You're losing electrolytes, you're losing salt, you're losing all the different, you know, the micronutrients and those kinds of things. So you have to continually be replenishing this as you're literally running around this loop. Now, yeah, you come into your aid station or whatever after a loop, and you stop and take, you know, however long break you want to take. You're still on the clock though the whole time. So, and if you want to run this in a certain amount of time, like you got to hustle up. You don't want to take that much of a break, but because also your body's going to start to seize up too. So basically I'd come in from that loop, and Tyler's like, what do you want? You know, here's some water, here's some drink, here's some, you know, whatever, here's some electrolytes, here's some salt tabs. You know, here's some, like he got Chick-fil-A for me one time. I literally ate on mile 60, I ate some Chick-fil-A before I went back out. I've got foam roller things, you know, I'm rolling out my legs as I stop. And my goal was to stop for 15 to 20 minutes only. Because here's the thing, your body starts to seize up and you start to cool down. Right. And it was cold out there too as it got dark out again, and you don't want to cool down. Like that's a huge no-no. So you've got to be prepped up and ready to, like, all right, back out, let's go, let's keep running, you know. And also my goal was to do it in under 24 hours, even though I didn't get that. Like you're still thinking that in your head over the long period of the whole day. Like you're trying to be as efficient as possible in that. You can lose or gain a lot of time actually in that stopping period, and gain a lot of, you know, traction throughout the day because of how you manage your stops. So yeah. And then after mile 50, you can have what's called a pacer. So Tyler was actually supposed to be my pacer, but he ended up hurting his knee about a week before the race. So he just focused on being my crew. And I was like, well, it'd be cool to have a pacer out there. I don't need one. But then my wife was like, well, I'll come out and pace you for at least 10 miles, you know, during the night, you know, so that way you don't have to be alone in the middle of the night. So from like 2 to 4, she was like, I'll come out and pace you. So she was out there to help pace me. And at that point, you're typically tired as heck. You know, it's the middle of the night. You're all alone by yourself. It's getting cold out. And you kind of need that morale boost. Now for me, luckily, like I had been sick for the first 3 loops, and now we're into the 4th and 5th loop, and I'm like giddy and I'm happy and I'm ready to rock and roll. And Tyler's like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like he couldn't believe it. And like I'm getting stronger as the race goes on, which is great. But then my wife came out and she did that first 10 miles with me, and she's like, I'm feeling good. I'm like, all right, let's keep rolling. She's never done anything over a half marathon before. She had come out and trained with me a couple different times during my training, my Saturday long run. She'd come out and run for like 2 hours or hour and a half with me during my 6-hour runs, you know what I mean? So that way I could break it up and have somebody to talk to at least for a little bit, and not just have to listen to an audiobook or listen to music or whatever. So it was kind of nice having that. So we had trained together in that way. She likes to run. She's getting better as she goes too. But I was like, well, if you're feeling good, let's keep rolling. She ended up crushing 20 miles with me, and we stayed at a 15-minute mile pace, which was really good for the middle of the night. Like nice. When most people at that point are dead tired and they're walking or speed hiking or whatever, like we didn't really stop and hike or speed hike too much at all. Like a lot of the strategy typically is up the uphills, you speed walk, because you're not gaining any traction by running up that. You're just losing your energy. There's no transfer of like gain in that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So typically during any uphills, you don't really like go full bore at them. You kind of do a slow jog up those uphills or a fast hike. And so during some of the bigger, the steeper ones, we would do that. But there was a lot of like really like not super steep ones. And we were chugging up them, man. We were feeling, and she had fresh legs, of course. So she was feeling good. But I was at that point where I was starting to feel good, you know, because I wasn't sick to my stomach anymore. And I still had a lot of energy left in the tank. And my nutrition was on point. You know, I was finally able to eat and keep all that food into my body now. And everything was just clicking on all cylinders. But there's a lot that goes into it, man. There's a lot of strategy, having teammates there to help you out. And then honestly, part of it's a mental thing too, is like just knowing that you have your family there and people there paying attention to what you're doing and supporting you. Like that's it's a morale boost, but it's also like, I don't want to let these people down. And then during the run, like I've got people blowing my phone up the whole time, you know, which was, I loved. I thought that was so awesome. And I was pretty intentional about checking in too, like during those periods of time where I could like speed walk up a hill. Like I would pull my phone out really quick and check, oh man, I got some texts, or, you know, guys are checking in. How's it going? Or I jumped on Instagram really quick, did a couple of videos and posted them up so people could see where I was at, see how I was doing. I wanted people to be part of this journey with me. I brought them along through all my training. Why not bring them along through the race if I've got a little bit of reception? You know what I mean? So that was pretty cool too. That was motivating. It's like, I think you messaged me and I was racing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And not that I messaged everybody back and said, hey, oh, thanks so much. You know, like I'd like their message or whatever. Or
you shouldn't run and text at the same time.
Or heart it. Well, and here's the thing. You couldn't run and text on this course. Like the roots, man, were like crazy bad. Like they would jump up, and it was like a dog was jumping up, biting your legs and your kneecaps and your calves, man. Like I turned my ankle a couple different times, and luckily I taped up my ankles really well because I knew that this course was going to be like a super technical course in that sense. Did my research, of course. But yeah, so you couldn't like text and run at the same time. It was too tough to do that. But there was those periods of times where you're speed hiking up some of the incline areas, and you could check in and get that motivation from people too. During the first half, actually, when I was sick to my stomach and I wasn't feeling good, I turned on Goggins' new book. I was listening to like chapter 6 and 7 when he was talking about Moab, which was really cool. And then he was talking about, you know, who's in your foxhole and those kinds of things. And man, it motivated me. It got me fired up, even though in that moment I wanted to quit really bad because I was like, man, it's just not my day. I'm sick to my stomach. Like I'm about ready to let this all out of my body. You know what I mean? And thank God it didn't happen that way, and I healed up and I got better and I was able to push forward and obviously complete this achievement, you know.
Yeah, I had a similar circumstance when I was doing my through hike across Michigan. And, you know, I mean, when I first started it, you know, that was my idea is just, you know, I was going to do this as a solo hiker and everything like that. And, but I was just amazed as to like, you know, how much of a community was actually centered around the trail.
Yeah.
You know, they have trail angels along the way that, you know, will help out hikers in various ways, either offer them shelter, maybe they'll just bring them supplies out out on the trail, or maybe give them like rides to and from town, you know. But it's just when I made it about a quarter of the way through, after like 300 miles of hiking or so, I made it to the city of Marquette in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and I was invited to speak at a local trail chapter. Like they got like various chapters for different sections of the trail. They're cool. Responsible for like maintaining it and whatnot. And that was one of the things that I told them, like, before I went up there and spoke. It's just like, you know, I want to thank you all really quick here, not just for having me, but it's just, I just realized that how much of a team effort this actually is. You know, when I started this, I thought I was just going to be all by myself. But to get a through hiker across the North Country Trail, it does, like, you know, kind of take an army. Because it's like, I got the trail angels who are, you know, helping me and offering me aid along the way. I got the Trail Association who's doing all the stuff behind the scenes back at headquarters to make sure that the trail stays open and all that stuff. And then I got the, you know, the local chapter members who are going out there volunteering their time to make sure that the trail is cleared and safe. So that way I can traverse through it. So, you know, it definitely, for me, it became more than the mileage as well. And I tell you, man, my very first day, and this restored my faith in humanity a little bit. Let me tell you that, because I mean, we all saw what happened over these last few years, and we don't really need to dive too deep down that rabbit hole. But let's just say I think a lot of people lost faith in humanity with a lot of stuff that they were seeing out in society. But my very first day, I hiked 16 miles, and so the way that the North Country Trail works in the Upper Peninsula, when you come in from the Wisconsin-Michigan state line heading into Michigan's Upper Peninsula, it's about 30 miles or so of just road walk. Yep. So it's all private property. So I couldn't necessarily just step off to the side and pitch my tent necessarily. Yeah. So I went and I knocked on a door. Well, actually, I didn't even get to the door because one of the homeowners was out in the front porch shaking out rugs. And she sees me, pulls up, older lady, and she sees me, and I'm just this exhausted, mess from just hiking 16 miles that day. But I still try to put on a big smile on my face, and everything. And I told her what I was doing, and I asked if I could pitch my tent in her yard. And she's like, "Well, let me go talk to my husband really quick." And he comes out, and I explained what I was doing as well. And they allowed me to pitch my tent. And as I'm getting ready to pitch my tent, here comes the lady of the house, and she says, "Would you prefer to sleep in our guest house, rather than sleep in the tent?" They had this huge guest house.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was like a 2-story guest house. Well, it was a big open space, but then they had one of those lofts that you took stairs up for that covered half the house. So my very first night of this trek, I got a bed to sleep in. I was able to take a shower. I was able to wash my clothes. And then they said, "Okay, dinner's at this time. If you want to come get dinner." They made me breakfast the next morning too. Just the works. And it's just I just walked up to a random house and asked.
Just never know.
Yeah. But then that trend continued as I went about the rest of the trek too. I mean, there was a lot of people that were ready to move mountains to help.
And you didn't even plan for any of that part of it, right? You just kind of figured that out as you went, that this was such a big community of people that were on board with what you were doing. Obviously, you were doing it for a good cause too, and I'm sure you were telling them about why you were doing it and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But kind of just relating back to that too, the ultra running community. I've been part of the jiu-jitsu community now for a while. I've been part of the hunting industry community for a while. I've been part of other communities as well. Honestly, bar none, the ultra running community is the most one of the best communities I've ever been part of. Everybody's happy, everybody's excited, everybody's "Good job, great work," or what's your story, or how, because as you're running along, you got plenty of time to talk and connect with people, and people are giving fist bumps and high fives, and man, it was amazing. And that was one thing Tyler told me too, because he's been an ultra runner for a little while. He's like, "Man, you just wait till you see what the community's like." And then you come into an aid station and these are all volunteers. You know what I mean? Food, hot, cold, everything you could ever want. Drinks. They're, "Hey, can I help you? Can I pour that for you? Here, give me your. What do you need? What do you need?" You know what I mean? It was amazing. These people are freaking amazing, and I think it's just one of those factors too. It's a respect factor. They know you're doing something that's so damn hard, that they want to support you in that endeavor. They want to support you in completing that achievement. Because it's I think it's less than 1% of the people in the world have ever completed a 100-mile race. So it's such a.
I would imagine it's less than that.
Yeah. It's a super small number. So this community is just super hardcore and how they support and want to enable the people who are part of this community. So obviously I'm new to this community, and now I'm part of it, obviously. And it was just I was so impressed by that. It was amazing. It was just all of a sudden, it's just one thing you find out about this as you start to do it, like what you're talking about.
Well, and of course, the cool thing about communities like that, I think a lot of people would be worried about trying to enter communities like that, whether it's in the realms of jiu-jitsu or in this case with ultra racing. Yep. Or and I was kind of talking to you about hunting earlier, how I was kind of having my initial nervousness of venturing in the hunting community. But the interesting thing about it is that if you do get criticism for venturing into those areas, it's never from the people who are in it. It's Correct. Always from people who are not doing what it is you're Correct. Setting out to do. So that's I don't know why it turns out that way. I mean, well, Actually, I do know why it turns out that way, because people that are in the community, or let's say a little bit further along in, let's say, said journey, again, hiking, jiu-jitsu, or whatever, they know what it was like to be a beginner. They probably were in the same position, were nervous as hell, but what only just separates you from them is just time and experience. And so it's just like, you can get to that point too, but you got to start somewhere. So just get started. I mean, you're not going to get criticism from those that are ahead of you. I mean, you're going to probably get lots of criticism from people who are behind you.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Like, well said. And man, again, I just want to emphasize what an amazing community, because again, I think you're right. Like, these people know how hard this is, what you're trying to do. And a lot of them probably have tried to do it themselves or been part of that community for a long time. So, they just have the ultimate respect for you. So,
absolutely. All right, man. Well, as we wind down here, we've been talking about all this challenging stuff that, you're doing and that I've been doing, or that I'm getting ready for on my end as well. So,
when are you going to ultra run?
Ultra run?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Okay. Well, right now,
you're here now. You got to come join me on one of these.
Yeah. Well, right now, my site is set on the Spartan Ultra. Like I said.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Near the Dallas. It's near Dallas. It's on October 21st.
So that'll be 31 miles.
31 miles, and the furthest I've ran up into this point was a full marathon. I ran the Marine Corps marathon when I was in the Marine Corps. Of course, that was ages ago now. So, but then of course, like, I've always ventured into like different things, like, maybe I'm a little bit of an experimenter too, because like I did, I trained specifically for a marathon, and after marathon, I got into MMA for a bit, and then I did one amateur fight as an MMA fighter. I won, by the way, just for anyone who's wondering. And then, then I got into, some of the obstacle course racing. I did a Tough Mudder, and I did, a Spartan race as well. And then I got into through hiking, and then I hiked all the way across Michigan and everything like that. So, but now I'm kind of combining two things that I've done in the past with obstacle course racing and long distance running, and going the furthest that I've ever ran. 31 miles will be the furthest I've ever ran. And then of course I think the course is going to consist of like 60 obstacles that I got to overcome. So
amazing.
So lots of running and a lot of grip training. Like grip training seems to be the common denominator that a lot of, when I'm doing my own research, it seems like those are the two big ones that come up when preparing for something like this. So, but anyway, what I was going to get back to here was I was going to ask, all this information and all these stories that we heard from you. I mean, I'm sure we can fire some people up, but still they have to, once they're done listening to this episode or watching the video on YouTube, they got to take action in some way. So with that, what challenge would you issue to our listeners today for them to go out there and start living a more adventurous life?
Yeah, don't overthink this stuff, man. Like, find something that does scare the crap out of you. Don't overthink it, though. Go sign up for it. Hire a coach, start training, whatever, reach out to the community of people who are part of that community, ultra running, whatever. Like, reach out to me. If it's ultra running, reach out to me. I'll get you connected. I'll help you get on the right path. Like, I'm just a rookie. I don't have any, I don't have all the answers and stuff like that. But like, I think when you start to do hard things and you find that community of people that's also doing those hard things, like, they want to help you complete those hard things too, because they know how important that is in life and the growth that's going to happen and the person you're going to become through that. So don't overthink it. Put something on the calendar and go freaking do it.
All right, right on, man. And so next I have my final three, and you've answered these questions before on the podcast, not too long ago, actually. But, I'll still ask you again, just by some chance, maybe your answers might have changed since then. And the first of these three questions is, what is your favorite place that you've been to so far?
My favorite place I've been to, man. It's always, I don't even remember what I answered on that last time.
I admit I didn't look this up, or I didn't
such a good question, man. I would have to say Montana is probably one of my favorite places. I have probably said that before. I love Montana, man. I miss it a lot. Maine is another great place too. Those are two super awesome places I really love and enjoy. And I miss, just because I live in the South now too. You think about the mountains, you think about the untouched country that's there in both of those places.
Yeah. Actually, I still need to get to Maine. Actually, all the states east of New York, I haven't been to yet.
Oh, okay.
So all those New England states, I haven't been to. So
great
I'm probably just going to like fly into like Boston or something and just like rent a car, do a big like loop of like all of them or something. So.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
A through hike, right? Appalachian Trail's right there, I think, right?
The Appalachian Trail, yes, is there. Also, so is the North Country Trail. The North Country Trail also ends in Vermont. So, yeah, you never know. But, okay, so next up, what is one thing on your bucket list that you have yet to do?
I just did it. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I think the next thing on my bucket list is the Moab 240 for sure. Moab 240 is on that list.
And you said it was going to be potentially a 2024 goal?
And I think 2024 is what I'm going to put that one down for, just because I'm going to focus on some elk hunting this fall, and kind of get my feet wet in that area again a little bit more. And then I'll be elk hunting probably every year now moving forward, now that I'm in good shape and I'm prepared to be able to do that. But Moab for sure, like it's on my list, man. It's there. It's like on my bucket list. So we got to go do that one.
Right on. And speaking of animals, that's what the last question entails, and this is a two-parter. What is your favorite animal, and have you seen this animal in the wild?
Yeah, I think I said deer last time. I do remember that. And
actually, that's not what you said.
What?
I remember what you said for this question. I do.
Oh, did I say a bear?
You said a roadrunner.
Oh, that's right. I did say a roadrunner. That's right. Yeah. Oh, I do love roadrunners. Deer and roadrunner are my two favorite animals. So, I have seen them both out in the wild for sure. So there you go.
All right, man. All right. Well, before we call it a day here, of course, we had this fancy space, so that's where everyone can follow you. But I guess just still give us the lowdown. Where can our listeners and our viewers, where can they go and connect with you?
Yeah.
Again, if they maybe have questions or if they want to break into this space of ultra running, I mean, how can we contact you, man?
Yeah, Instagram's probably the easiest place, at Collin_Cottrell on Instagram, and then you can go to Collin Cottrell or CollinCottrell.com. And I'm going to be revamping that site a little bit. I'm probably going to be putting an email list together as well. That's something that's kind of on my task list for upcoming, is I want to start doing more email type stuff, just because social media is great, but they limit us so much on being able to connect with people.
Sure.
Nowadays. So definitely reach out to me though. And I love to connect with people, as you know. That's how we got connected, was through social media, and I've always been one of those guys who tries to stay connected with people. So yeah.
And what about in the realm of high caliber hunts? I mean, you got some stuff coming up here.
Yeah, we do.
Sure. but from what I gathered, it looks like your hunting camps fill up pretty fast as soon as they go live. So.
Yeah, dude. I've got a couple spots left for my April hunt, and then I've got one spot left, I think, for the hunt that you're signed up for. So they fill up pretty quick, man. And I haven't really pushed them that hard, to be honest. I haven't even put out an email blast about them yet. It was just all a couple social media blasts. But you can go to highcaliberhunts.com for that if you're interested in coming out and connecting with guys like Josh and I, or Kyle Creek is going to be out there on one of them. A lot of super high caliber, awesome guys. We get super intentional about the conversations we have. As you know, Josh, a lot of great conversation. And you'll get to enjoy the food this time around, because these will be 3-day, 2-night hunts. And actually, one thing different that we're doing this year for these two camps is no phones. We're going to take the phones away. So
I like that idea.
Yep. So we're going to make it really intentional in the conversation, and make sure guys are really having a good time connecting. So
yeah. Well, I mean, we'll have designated photographers, right? Because I do want to get
Correct.
some footage. Okay,
Correct.
cool.
Yep. We'll have photographers at both of them.
Good.
So, which will be
I want to get
cool.
some footage. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
And on my end, of course. So
Yep.
I do like that idea, because I mean, again, going back to this idea, and I appreciate that you put these fireside chats in there too,
Yep.
because I guarantee you, again, putting my archaeology hat back on, is that more business and more things were done around the campfire than at any table.
Yeah,
it's
just, an amazing time, man. The connection that we have. Like, you were on my thermal hunt, and don't get me wrong, that was awesome. Like, we had a great time. Great time connecting in that. This is just a whole nother level. You get 8 to 10 to 12 guys together, good food, fun time hunting, sitting around a campfire, having a couple cold drinks, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a great, great time. And then now we take the phone away and are super intentional about that time. And it's just takes it to a whole nother level. So it's going to be a great time, man. I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, if anybody wants to come out and join us on that, that spot's going to fill up pretty quick for our hunt in May.
Yeah.
But
and hope I don't know if like by the time this episode comes released, we're probably looking at like maybe an early March release for this episode. Who knows? They may be filled up, but still.
But we'll have more. We're going to do more.
Yeah, keep checking. I mean, I'll get everything linked up in the show notes. Keep checking because I know like last year you had a good variety of hunts that you were putting out there. You had like the Cajun alligator hunts in Louisiana, and then of course you were in Illinois for the rut and everything. So
and we'll do more of that too. We've got more of that in the works for sure. I've got a lot of different ideas that I'm working on right now. And we'll do more of the thermal hunts as well. So just a lot more stuff in the works, and it's just about time, energy, efficiency of doing all those things. So, but it's growing. I'm not trying to build this thing like from 0 to 100 in like a week. You know what I mean? Like I want this to be a nice gradual grow and be something that people get excited about and where they are selling out quick because, it's not like I'm doing a hunt every week. You know what I mean? I'm doing it every couple months and kind of making it fun like that.
Well, I don't know, man. I would almost dare say you did go 0 to 100 pretty quickly. Well, especially considering like the caliber of men that have shown up to, some of your hunts. I mean, obviously Kyle Creek is one of them. You've had Jack Donovan come out and hunt with you. You've had JP Donnell, come out and help with you. A legendary, Navy SEAL sniper is out there hunting hogs with you. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I think you kind of did go from 0 to 100 pretty quickly there.
Well, thank you, man. I've really spent a lot of time on communication and connecting and building relationships with people. So, it's part of that too. I've been very blessed. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think a lot of it is just, being intentional with reaching out to and establishing those connections. Sometimes that's really what it takes,
Of course.
I kind of surprised my dad the other day. Well, not the other day. This is a while back. Because I've been doing this podcast for a number of years now, and I've had some amazing guests come along the way. And anytime I would try to tell my dad about like some of the guests, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, cool, that's cool, son. Yeah, that's cool." But I just had one of my favorite authors come on my show, Kyle Mills. He's the current author of the Mitch Rapp series, which the original author of the series, Vince Flynn, had passed away back in 2013. He wrote 13 books in the series, and now Kyle took over and he wrote 8 books in the series. And he's working on a 9th. So there's like 21 books. So huge fan base with the series. And I got the author to come on my show.
Amazing.
And when and my dad was the one that actually introduced me to the Mitch Rapp series. Oh. And so when I told him that I was bringing Kyle Mills on my show, he's like, "What? Are you serious? Really? How did you do that?"
Then he got excited.
Yeah, he got really excited. But some of the questions were like, "Well, how'd you do that? Like, how'd you get him to come on my show?" It's like, "Well, I asked." I reached. I made it a point to reach out and ask. I mean, of course, we can dive in the weeds where I tried to, obviously, I try to make it a win for my guests as much as me. Yeah, I mean, because a lot of obviously, Kyle Mills is an author, so much of his creative side is through written word, and so a podcast was like a different avenue for him to take to share his story and talk about his work. So yeah, it was just, but really, I just asked.
That's so awesome.
So, and now hopefully if all goes well, I'll probably have like other authors, like I'm currently talking with Jack Carr's team, and hopefully
that'd be good.
Hopefully I can get him to come on too. So, but yeah, really, it's just, if you want to connect with people in the way that you and I have, it's just, you sometimes have to, make that initial move. You got to make the first move, and you got to ask or say hello. I don't know.
You don't get something you don't ask for.
Exactly.
So. Yeah. It sounds simple, but it's the truth.
Yep, absolutely. So, all right. Well, Collin, I don't know about you, man, but I'm ready for some barbecue.
I'm ready to eat, dude.
But anyway, man, thanks again for,
man.
It's just, obviously, I literally flew in from Virginia today and, got you on the horn and, we set this up. So thanks for, joining me short notice. And as always, sharing your story with myself and listeners, man. It's been great.
You bet, man. Thank you.
All right. Right on, brother.